back to the Walking with Wanzuu podcast. I'm your host, Yvette Wanzuu. How are you? How have you been? How has life been treating you? It's been treating you good? Tough times? Sending you hugs and love nonetheless. This is a safe space that I have created for us to be able to talk about all things life, and I draw from my own personal life experiences, some of the good, the bad, and some of the very laughable ones. This is me just giving you a tiny little sneak peek of what goes on in my head and in my heart, if you will. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy listening. Hello, guys. Wanzuu here, your host for the Walking with Wanzuu podcast. How have you guys been? How are you doing? It's August. August is Augusting. Ama, is it August? It's doing exactly what it needs to do, guys, which is give us lots of sun and lots of summer vibes and good vibes. And I stand to be corrected if I'm here screaming that we're in summer and we're not. Honestly, for me, as long as the sun is out and it's consistent, it's giving summer. So go and argue with yourself. Otherwise, how are you guys? How are you doing? Today's episode is something that I just want to be honest with you guys and tell you that it's taken so much, um, a lot of back and forth, to be honest, to be able to discuss it. However, I never want to feel like I'm trying to limit myself, or because the minute I start to limit or to overthink, then that's making me feel like I'm not moving from a point of authenticity. And one of the many reasons why I started this space was to be able to have raw and authentic conversations, but to give of myself from a very raw, authentic, and genuine space. It's just me. It's my content. It's my space, and I always want to come through as the most raw, genuine, and authentic version of myself that I can, which I have. However, sometimes when you're giving of yourself and giving of your own personal stories, you struggle with the balance of when is too much, when is it too much information, when am I just playing, when am I just goofing. Sometimes that's something that we struggle with, but knowing that I am a creative and also a person who is genuinely just very, very called upon to share in my own experiences and give off a vibe of a safe space and wellness. I never want to. I don't want to limit myself. I want to give of myself. If it tugs at my spirit and it tugs at my heart, it means that it's something that needs to be discussed. And so that's what I'm here to do, guys. This is something that I have personally experienced. A lot of people around me who I know, a lot of women, and even some men that I look up to, that I have had the pleasure of loving and knowing, I have seen go through this. It could be family, it could be friends, but it's something that's not it's not new to us, and that's the issue of women who love too much. Now, I don't want to narrow down this conversation to just women. I know I talk about a lot about women because I personally am a woman, and so I'm living life through my own personal lens as a woman and through my experiences as a woman. However, the things that even as women, because we do interact with men, we know them, we see them, we raise them, we love them, we date them. All these men are people that we interact with, right? And so sometimes we can also speak through certain life experiences from our own experiences as we see the men in our lives move, if that makes sense. So I'm going to talk about the issue. What I can't talk. I'm going to talk about the issue, the phenomena, the aspects of men and women who love too much. Now it's 2023, and the anthem out there, or the narrative that's being pushed for a lot of people, is we are in the streets, we are outside. Feelings for who? If you're in your feelings, that's on you. You need to tuck in your feelings and move with the wave, because nobody has time for softness and all of that. And I think sometimes because of how society is, and because we are all generally just trying to survive and just, live the best lives that we can, there's a lot of people are genuinely just looking out for themselves. And then the people who want to put themselves out there 100% and maybe love 100% or give of themselves 100% are scared. You could be scared because you did that at one point and you got hurt, or you could be scared because you're out in the streets and you're seeing the way you're moving, hey, things may not be good for your heart. So you choose to tuck in your feelings and have interactions of love, or go through relationships from a very timid point, um, And generally you're just trying to do a lot of self-preservation because you're not trying to get hurt. Nobody's trying to get hurt. But I think something that we all don't admit and talk about enough is, imagine we're all just trying to be loved, we're all just trying to be accepted, we're all just trying to move through life having experienced it in its fullness. And what better way than being surrounded by people, or even have a special person who just loves you, accepts you, and sees you for who you truly are. I think I think romantic relationships are such a beautiful place to be in, because then there are all these roles that life gives us. If you're a parent, then you know you have to show up as a parent. If you're employed, then you're an employee. If you're employed, wow, if you're employed. If you're employed, then you need to show up as your best as a worker and do what you need to do. First of all, to make money, and also just work and walk in your purpose. And then there are all these other things that we do around. Perhaps you know you're an employer yourself, and so you're expected in life to show up in that capacity. But when you have a romantic partner, when you have your person who you're doing life with, they just need you to show up as you. You know, if I had a special someone in my life, they wouldn't need me to show up as a mom. They wouldn't need me to show up as what it is that I do in my 9 to 5. They don't even need me to do the most. They just need me to show up as Wanzuu. I'm just me. And I think experiencing that is one of the greatest experiences in life. However, now you can hear me talk on and on about love because, first of all, I'm a hopeless romantic, and so the idea of love just makes me it just makes me happy. Like now, I'm feeling like my heart is so warm, and the way as I'm recording this, I felt like the house was so cold. So romanticizing love can come with a lot of its downsides as well, because sometimes out of the content that we consume, it could be those books that you are reading, Sweet Valley High, Mills and Boone, I am guilty as charged. It could be some of the movies, or even the R&B music that we listen to. It was a 90s R&B. That one can really alter your idea and perception of love, to think that is this smooth sailing natural thing, that happens. And the truth is, everything that is good, everything that is pure, everything that gives you a certain level of satisfaction and joy requires a certain amount of work. And that's what I want us to talk about. Um, Today, I want us to be able to dive into what it is that it looks like to be able to have good love, and then what it looks like to have toxic love. And now, the word toxic is something that is a word that's usually thrown around. In fact, I feel like just saying toxic is thrown around in itself is something that's also said a lot. But toxicity can mean so many things. So the first aspect of toxicity or toxic love that I want us to be able to talk about is from the end of someone who's receiving it, right? And that's why I want us to talk about men and women who love too much. Now, how we give and receive love generally stems from our upbringing. And who's the first person who's in charge of nurturing you? It's just like when you have a plant or when you have something that you need to take care of, it's the owner, it's the person who's purchased it, or in this case, it's the person who has brought you into this world that is in charge of you and of taking care of you and instilling these values, providing etc. So it's the parents that usually model how we see love, how we view love, how we will in turn, as we grow older, receive it and give it. And so you'll find that a lot of people who struggle with giving and receiving toxic love, usually that is modeled from when they are younger. So from when they are young, as they get older, the experiences that they go through, or how it is that they give and receive love from their parents, will model how it is that they show up in their romantic relationships as they grow older. And I'm saying this knowing that sometimes we get involved in romantic relationships when you're relatively younger, but that I can also excuse for a bit, because when you get into a romantic relationship, let's say for example in your teens, this is someone who is just, like, you're trying to grow, and so how you show up and how you do certain things can be a reflection of how you receive love when you're younger. But you're also in a period in your life when you're just expressing yourself, you're trying to discover yourself. And so some of the things that you do there, like in your teens, are a bit excusable. But then now I want to talk about it from a mature perspective. Perhaps you're in your late 20s, perhaps you're in your 30s, and you can identify a certain pattern or a certain flow. and you're not quite sure where you got it from, and you're just trying to get to the root of things. That's why I'm here. This particular discussion was prompted from a conversation that I had with someone. I felt I was there was a time I was in a season where I felt I was spiraling, and that's because I could see I had a track record of being involved in relationships that weren't very were the best, if I could say that. And I could see that my recurrent complaint was that I always told my girls or whoever it was that I was talking to about the relationships that I was in, that I feel like I'm giving too much. I feel like I'm really giving of myself. I feel like I'm really showing up. I feel like I'm really working. And what I'm getting in return is not what it is that I feel I deserve or what it is that I was expecting to get in return. And so, having experienced this a number of times, it prompted me to just pause and think, so who is the common denominator in my story or in my life? It is I. So, if this is happening a number of times, it means that either I'm enabling it or there's something in me that's attracting this kind of experience. So, and I'm also a very firm believer in life is constantly giving you scenarios. Like it can give you the same scenarios until you get the lesson in it, and then you're able to move on from it. And I felt like through experiencing relationships where I felt like I was overgiving and not getting that in return, that was life trying to teach me something, or there's something that I needed to be aware of or to get a hold of, so that perhaps I could change something or I could learn something. And so I just want to talk about some of the households that can contribute to someone having this kind of trait, the attribute of loving a bit too much or loving too much. The first household is a household with transactional parents. These are parents who love you when you're just out here winning. You could be very good in sports, you could be very good academically, you could just generally be a brilliant person, or even those people that we like to call them Miss Goody Two Shoes. And as I speak about this, I'm speaking about this both ways. So it goes for the men and for women, or I could say it goes for the boys and the girls as well. So when you're in a household where your parents only rock with you when you do big things and you make them look good, you've gone Sijui into sports, Sijui you're playing football, now you came back with this trophy, you're the star player, you're that student who's always going for science congress and you're killing it and you're running A's straight in your grades, and you just you're constantly getting all these certificates and being recognized, so it makes your parents look good. So then you notice a pattern whereby as long as you're constantly excelling and achieving, then you feel like your parents rock with you more, or they love you more, or they express the love and the appreciation that they have for you more. I mean, as long as you're excelling, you're achieving, you're on your A, then you feel like that's the prerequisite for your parents to be able to love you or to be with you better. So, people who grow up in those kinds of households tend to interpret that for me to be able to be loved, or for me to be able to feel accepted and to be valued, then I need to excel at something. And if I don't excel at something, then these people won't want to be with me. They won't just want to love me for who I am. I have to be good at something. I have to succeed at something. I have to excel at something. I have to achieve something major to be able to be loved and to receive this kind of love and goodness that comes with it. And then there's the household that where children grow up having alcoholic parents. It could be both parents, which is incredibly unfortunate, or it could be one parent. The parent could be alcoholic or could be addicted to drugs. Now, in these households, the truth is, guys, if you're an alcoholic and you're a parent, or if you're addicted to drugs and you're a parent, you genuinely won't. By the time you're getting to a point where you rely on this thing to survive and to function, you won't be the best parent that you can be, that you would want to be. Let's leave alone even societal standards. Let's leave alone what parenting is supposed to look like. You yourself know the things that you would, know the roles that you have and how you would want to perform them and do the best that you can. And so when you're a parent and you're struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction, you do not perform at optimum. You're not the best parent that you would ordinarily need to be or want to be. And so children who grow up in households with alcoholic parents, there's a certain level of dysfunction that comes with it. Alcohol, as we all know, alcohol and drug use usually bring out certain aspects of ourselves that are not the best, right? Because sometimes when your inhibition is lowered, you can really be out here doing things that are detrimental to the brand and just not being at your best. Okay, and so there's a certain level of dysfunction that comes in homes where children grow up where they have alcoholic parents. And that level of dysfunction is usually carried into adulthood. And so you'll find that these are children who they like the drama, they like the, perhaps conflict, perhaps violence. And so when they're in a relationship where that is not there, there's no constant drama or violence, or like there's no form of instability, then they feel like this relationship is not giving. In fact, things here are too peaceful for my taste. And so then that in return makes you seek out or sort out people who are broken, and that and broken people or people who struggle with drug addiction or alcoholics, just like your parents, that's a norm for you. So that's what children who grow up in such homes will attract. And we can all we can all agree that when you're in a relationship where your partner is struggling with alcohol or drug addiction, it's not going to be the best relationship. It's actually not the best. It's not the best environment to nurture love and to receive love. And so that's what children who grow up in those kind of homes tend to seek out or tend to attract, because that is what the norm is for them. And who wants that for their child? And then now there's the third category of people who love too much. Now these are people who their parents have exposed them to predicaments and challenges of adulting too early. Hence, these children end up assuming the role of the parents. Now, let me bring this into perspective. We all know life is hard, okay? Life kicks you behind as an adult. Life will really do what it needs to do. It comes with its own fair share of challenges, and sometimes it feels like it's not even raining; it's pouring, and it could be that for problems. It's like you're dealing with this problem, now there's another issue, there's another one on top of that, and you'll find as parents you start, sometimes you could even do it unawares, neglecting your roles and responsibilities. Or sometimes you're in a marriage that is going through it, like you're not in the best phase of your marriage, and then maybe it's the mom or the dad. But more often times, I've had people complain about their mothers. They tend to start discussing their marital issues with their child. Let me tell you, this person is so young. All this person wants to do is for you to pay their school fees, teach them good morals and values, and you just love on them no matter or regardless of who or how they are or how their personality is, guide them and then keep them pushing. Children don't need to be burdened with knowledge of how, I don't know, their father is cheating, or their father hit you, or their father did this and their father did that. And so now you're turning your child into your resident psychologist or your resident counselor. And sometimes for some people, I've even had someone talk about this and say, I never even wanted my dad to leave, because it's after when he leaves the house, now I'm just bombarded with stories of how he's such a bad man, he did this and he did that. And so as a result, you make this child now start assuming the role of either your co-parent or your partner, or to meet you at a mature level which they are not ready for, right? And this child will feel the need to still show up in that capacity, because I feel like this is a prerequisite for you to love them. So it's like if I tell you how this other parent, if a parent who's in a toxic relationship, for instance, or a toxic marriage even, has their spouse cheating on them, and then you come to your child and you tell them, your father is cheating, he doesn't love us, he doesn't want to provide for us properly, he's always with his other family. This child will feel the need to not only have to sit down and listen to you go on and on, bad mouthing their other parent, but also the need to have to empathize, because then they feel like if they don't empathize and they don't listen and they don't meet you where you are, you won't love them. You'll feel like they're also equally the enemy now. So you can imagine how much that can be for a child, for someone who's just trying to grow and develop. And in some families, it can get really bad, because we know of families where one of the parents was struggling with depression. It doesn't even have to be drug or alcohol use. It could be depression. And now that this parent is not showing up or assuming the roles that they're supposed to. And so now this child is forced to take up parental roles, try and take care of their siblings, try and make sure the home is running well. And children have no business doing those kind of roles and taking up those kind of responsibilities. And so it is people, in many instances, who have been brought up in such homes that tend to form very toxic patterns when it comes to love. And the greatest of them all is the phenomena of loving too much. So, why do I say loving too much? Because for these kinds of people, as they engage in chaotic but stimulating and distracting interactions with unhealthy men or women, they are too excited to sink into the depression that lingers just under the level of awareness. And this is something that I say a lot for myself. I've been in situations where I have advised people against, I'm just like, don't do that, don't be with them, ghost them, cancel them, leave that person alone, walk away from that situation, do this and you'll be fine. And they apply that, and it works for them, and things turn around for them, and things get better. But I have also been in instances where my friends and people who care about me and know me tell me, Wanzuu, I wish you could also really just take your own advice. And I'm not able to. And that's because when you grow up in any of the homes that I had discussed earlier on, then you tend to, it's like, because of what you have experienced, which is not a pleasant experience, and a lot of unpleasant experiences that we experience as children or even growing up tend to build up the traumas that we battle and try to deal with when we are older. And so for some people, to be able to create a distraction so that they don't have to face or to deal with those traumas, then they engage in these kind of interactions. So then for some people, you find that, and this also happens for anxious attachers, and you can be an anxious attacher based on also your childhood experiences, right? Um, you tend to attract people who, two types of people. Let me talk about two types of people. First, you tend to attract people who are emotionally unavailable, people who don't have time for you, people who you constantly have to jolt to make time for you, or jolt to be able to speak to you, or people. It's like you're constantly reminding them, hey, by the way, oh, we're in a relationship. We are doing something here, so I need you to focus because me, I'm really focusing on you. And then you also tend to attract broken people. So it could be alcoholics, just like your parents. It could be people struggling with great, just terrible demons. It could be people who are, struggling with depression. And then you feel a need to show up for these people. Like you want, it's like now you turn the people that you're dating into your tiny little projects, and you feel like it is your responsibility and it is your role and your calling because you love them so much. And I'm saying love in quotes, guys. You turn the people that you're dating, or you turn your relationships into a project. And imagine all this is usually just to be able to create a distraction so you don't deal with your demons, or so you don't deal with whatever it is that you've struggled with from your past. And so now you could be here and you're constantly complaining to the people who want to listen, or to the people that you can share with and tell them, so and so didn't show up, or so and so lied, or so and so is back, is taking drugs again, or my person is doing this again. And so you feel it's like you feed off of the, what is it called? You feed off of the, and I hate to use this word, but you feed off of the excitement of trying to see, okay, this is someone I can fix. This is someone who I can use as a distraction so I don't have to deal and confront with my own demons. But also, another thing that would attract you to be in this kind of relationships is because that is what is familiar to you. So what is familiar to you is the brokenness. What is familiar to you is the drug addiction. What's familiar to you is the alcoholic addiction. What's familiar to you is being in a transactional space. So you feel like your idea of love is, I excel, I thrive, and then my partner loves me. And when I'm not excelling and I'm not thriving at something, then they don't love me as much. So a lot of what you experience in your childhood now tends to carve out the kind of partners that you seek out and the kind of situations that you find yourself in now. Um, a cruel, an indifferent, or difficult partner usually becomes the equivalent of a drug, creating a means for you to be able to avoid your own feelings. They create a temporary avenue of escape. Now, remember, I said in the last season, guys, if there's something that we're going to do, is we're going to heal. And healing is not, I know people normally tell you, oh, I went to therapy and now I'm starting to feel so seen and so hard. And it sounds like they're in this bubble of Zen energy and goodness and good vibes. But the truth is, healing is messy. Healing takes you back to certain parts of yourself that you didn't even realize existed. Healing reveals certain traits and attributes of yourself that you really didn't know existed. Now, let me put this in perspective for you. This is the person that we generally would feel sorry for. So if you're a friend, it could be a guy or a lady, and you come to me and you have this kind of a partner. Maybe you're constantly dating people who are struggling with alcohol and drug abuse. Perhaps you're dating people who have a lot of narcissistic traits. Perhaps you find yourself dating people who are just fighting their old demons and are constantly avoidant. Like it's like they don't have time for you, and when they realize that you're trying to drift off, then they breadcrumb you. So they give you just enough to be able to keep you in. But once they've looped you in, they don't give you the time, the satisfaction, the love, the attention that would usually come with a good and healthy relationship. So this is the person who's on the receiving end of all of this is usually the person who we would still feel sorry for. But the question is, why is it that you're constantly attracting this caliber of people? Why is it that you're constantly finding yourself in these kind of situations? If we take all these distractions away and the thrill that comes with the dysfunction of having an avoidant partner or a partner who's dealing with all of these things, when we take all those away and the sun goes down and it's just you and yourself, are you okay? Is there something internally that you're genuinely fighting or struggling with that you're trying to run away from? And so you're using all this chaos that comes with dating an unavailable or a not very suitable partner to be able to conceal what it is that you're feeling. Are you using this broken partner who you constantly attract as a distraction, as a project, so you can boost your ego and feel like, imagine I'm really adding value to this person's life. I'm really fixing this person. And me, I'm a nice person. Me, I'm a good person. Can we just learn to be able to go back to ourselves and define what love is? Love, for me, in a romantic sense, is being able to grant other people being. And that's why, for me, in a very big way, I normally describe love as acceptance. Love for me is acceptance, and that's love. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional as I discuss this. And that's love in every capacity, right? Romantic love. It could be love among friends. It could be love for family. The essence of what love truly is acceptance. And so the moment there's an element of control among two people who love each other or care for each other or have or just as long as there's an element of control among two people who love each other and care for each other, then there's a problem. Love is also peaceful, right? So when there's an interaction where two people come together and they choose to form a union or they choose to do life together or to date or just just kick it with one another, when there's that kind of attraction and people choose to come together and form a relationship, there should never be a certain point where the other party feels like they're overworking. It's like when you're working, then that means there's something that's going wrong. It means that you're either overcompensating or you're genuinely trying to convince the other party that, imagine I am here, imagine I am should be here and love me, choose me, be with me. Then now there's a problem. Um, and I'm just not here to be able to talk about the issues and how you, as a person who loves too much, need to be able to catch yourself and just feel like, okay, now I know that I have the issue of loving too much, and perhaps that's not the best trait. How do I solve this? I don't want you to be able to look at this conversation from a point of, I'm doomed. Okay, there's no hope. Now it's my childhood that has messed me up, or some of the things that I've experienced, and this is it. There's no hope. Imagine there's hope. And so I want us moving forward to look at some of the solutions, or some of the ways that we can find our way back to wholeness, and how we can teach ourselves to love just enough, but to be able to love ourselves first, and then we can give off and attract good and positive love. So then, what are some of the ways that you can be able to go back and try and correct and tweak certain things that you're not so happy about, when you find out that you are the person who loves too much? Okay, the first thing that I can say is, if you come from a home where one of your parents, or someone, even now that you're grown, because there's no much we can do about your childhood now, you've had it, you experienced it. We can only fix things or try and work on things at the point where you are and at now in life. And if you hear people hitting things, that's my neighbor doing the most on the top floor. The first thing is to be able to try and find an Al-Anon group. I know we all know about Alcoholics Anonymous, but a lot of people don't talk about Al-Anon. And Al-Anon is a support and discussion group for relatives of people with alcoholic use disorder, usually operated in conjunction with Alcoholics Anonymous. So anywhere you'll find an Alcoholics Anonymous group, you most likely will find an Al-Anon group. And this is basically just a support group for people who have relatives that are struggling with alcohol use disorder or alcohol addiction, if you may, or for people who are alcoholics. Yeah. Usually, what happens in this group is they create a space, and I feel like this is something that we need to be very conscious of. They create a space for people, for relatives of people struggling with alcohol addiction or alcohol misuse, to be able to talk and be heard, so they don't feel like whatever it is that they're experiencing, or whatever it is that's going on in their homes, is an isolated case, or it's just happening to only them. You'd be surprised when we learn to share how we will feel like most of us are going through life having similar experiences, yet no idea. But when you're in the thick of things and you're fighting your own demons, or you're climbing your own mountain, most of the time you feel like, this one of mine is an isolated case, or it's just me going through this. But imagine it's not. And so an Al Anon group creates that kind of support, a space where people who have family that is dealing with alcohol misuse can be able to talk. They can get some form of guidance, but they can also get some kind of tools, because most of the time when you have a parent who's an alcoholic, or who's addicted to drugs, people tend to always focus all their attention on the one who has the addiction. You feel like that's the only person who needs love, that's the only person who needs care, that's the only person who we need to fix. But are you looking at the people around them and the kind of effect that whatever it is that they're doing has on them? And so when you learn to do that, then you make sure that the people around them are also taken care of, right? And I feel like if that particular person struggling with alcoholism is a parent, then it's the children that feel the effects the most. And so you want to make sure that these children feel heard, feel seen, and get as much support as they can. And then while we are on the discussion of alcoholic parents, Aki, can I just say, as society, we are really failing, because many times when you see a parent who's struggling with alcoholism and their home is not functioning at optimum, so the children are not being taken care of, and maybe you find the eldest child is trying to step up and now take up their roles. People just want to sit and judge and talk about, I can't believe so and so is doing this. They need to get their act together. Instead of judging, can we try and be a point of support? Can we try and do that? Can we try and see, okay, in as much as so has dropped the ball and now the children are in a space where they're struggling, how do we also just come through and support these children, even as this particular person in question is trying to fix themselves, right? Um, the other thing that you can do if you're a person who loves too much is to heal. Now, this is hard to hear, but it's true. I know because you're the one who's constantly given too much of yourself and gotten nothing in return. You're the one who's found yourself in situations where perhaps because your partner was abusing alcohol or drugs, you've experienced abuse. It could be physical abuse. It could even, unfortunately, be sexual abuse. Like you could have experienced certain forms of abuse because you're a person who's struggling with loving too much, and so some of the situations that you tend to attract are situations where you find yourself being in a position where you get love that is not ideal or love that is not the best, and so please heal. First of all, just heal from whatever it is that you have experienced. And I just want to be able to tell you that when you know better, you do better. Sometimes we experience certain things because we didn't know it then. We didn't know, like we were in the thick of it, we were following a certain pattern or a certain cycle, but it's the awareness that changes everything. And so once you catch yourself and you feel like, this is starting to look like a pattern or something is not right here, or what is it, what is going on, the minute you start to get those feelings, then that's how you know you're on the path to healing. And so catch yourself, and then once you do that, try and heal. First, heal from what you've experienced from these toxic relationships where you are in the position where you are giving off too much love, and then now get to the root cause of why it is that you're a person who loves too much. Okay, so if you need to go down memory lane and even seek counseling, so talk to someone and try and unpack your childhood, and try and be able to unpack some of the toxic beliefs or some of the toxic habits that you've acquired over time that puts you in a position where you give off too much love or attract situations that are detrimental to you as a person. So once you're able to unpack that, then now you're well on your journey to healing. And for some people, it happens after a month. For some people, it happens for a year. For some people, it becomes a lifelong journey of learning to catch yourself. Every time you feel like you're slipping into it, you catch yourself and you take a detour and try and do something better or try and do something different. Yeah, and that's just how you can deal with that. The other thing is to learn to love yourself. Now, I know this is hard to hear, especially when you have convinced yourself and you have convinced even people around you that you're the person who is always giving off too much love and you just have so much love to give. Um, could it be that through trying to extend too much love to other people and trying to fix other people, that you're trying to heal parts of yourself that no one was there to help you heal, or no one or other people even created in you? And so instead of choosing to give that to yourself, give that love that you so badly need to yourself, give that grace that you so badly need to yourself, you're choosing to try and mirror it out to other people so that you can feel like, I'm soothing my ego and I'm putting a band-aid to those times when I needed this and I didn't get it. It's never too late to start the self-love journey. You will be surprised just how much joy and love and good vibes you'll exude when you're in a position where you genuinely rock with yourself. When you're in a position where you wake up, you look at yourself no matter what your body looks like or no matter what you look like, and you love yourself and you appreciate this body that's carrying the being that you are. And then you start to extend grace to yourself. And when you make mistakes, you say, and yeah, that was giving, it's giving ghetto, but I can do better. I can learn from that experience and do better, and extend yourself a lot of grace, a lot of grace. Something that I always like to say is try and watch people who are normally incredibly critical. and always on the edge. Imagine just that's just a reflection of what's going on the inside for them. You'd be surprised to know that they are highly critical of themselves and they really struggle with themselves as people. And so as a result, that's what they mirror. And so they're always in everyone's business, criticizing and feeling like people can always do something differently that they're not currently doing. So please fix that. Please fix that. Love on yourself. Be gracious to yourself. At the end of the day, you're all you've got. All these other people come after. And there's a reason that you're born by yourself on this earth. You could have siblings, you could have twins, you could have all of that, all those people that surround you. But at the end of the day, the common denominator in your story and the main person in your story is you. So you're all you've got. Please work with yourself. Love on yourself. Invest in yourself before you run out to be able to go out and normally treat other people and do things for other people, ask yourself, have you done it for yourself? Have you gotten yourself a little treat? Have you done something nice for yourself? Have you complimented yourself? Are you grateful for yourself? Do you love you? Think about that. The other thing that I want us to be able to do, even as we try to heal from the issue of loving too much, is to be honest with yourself. This is hard to hear, even for me. But it is at the point where I was honest with myself and I sat down and took, I genuinely just reflected that I realized when I'm honest with myself, when I look back, even if I need to write my thoughts down, because one thing about my brain, it's always very loud and always has so much to say, is when I put my thoughts down and I can articulate how I truly feel and what it is that I'm struggling with, that I start to get solutions, that I start to get help, that I can improve from a point of knowledge. So when you do that for yourself, things get better. The last thing I would say is do better. And this is easier said than done. The number of times I've found myself circling back into a toxic cycle, even after I have preached and even had maybe a conversation with someone and said how, me, I'm not going back. I'm not even going to try and do that again. I'm moving on. I'm getting better. I'm doing better for me. And then in a moment of weakness, you catch yourself going back into that cycle. Imagine sometimes it requires you to be even a bit militant with yourself to be able to get a certain element of change. So I don't know what situation it is in your life that has found you experiencing a side of yourself where you've learned that you're a person who loves too much. And all I can tell you is it requires work from you, for you, with motivation from yourself to want to do better and to heal. It's always easy to give in to bitterness. It's always easy to give in to resign to your toxic traits, to resign fate to your bad experiences, and just to choose to maybe wallow in self pity or be a victim of your circumstances. But it takes a lot of strength to choose to heal, to choose to face whatever demons it is that you have head on, and then see what possibilities lie for you on the other side. There's a lot of pressure that we feel. I personally know I have felt it to just have someone, have someone who, have someone to love, have someone to talk to, and other people are talking about. Experience love, romantic love, to be more specific. But you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot give what you do not have. So let's go back. Let's go back to ourselves. Come back home. Come back to yourself. Learn yourself. Heal whatever it is that you need to heal. Extend yourself grace. Extend yourself love. And then now go forth and give of that and share that with someone. Wouldn't it be a good experience if you worked on yourself and went through life as the highest form of yourself that you could be and then be able to share that with someone? Wouldn't that be awesome? And imagine that's something that you can experience if you choose to heal, and figure out what it is that you're struggling with and then move on from it. I hope this has shed as much light for you as it has for me. I recently began this journey. I have been on it for a couple of months now, but I can tell you that some days are good and some days are hard. But what makes me happy and what motivates me is knowing what waits for me from on the other side. And that's healthier patterns of loving, and that's me showing up as my best self, because now I'm learning to love on myself, to prioritize myself, and to show up as my true self, and to give up the need for control. I think that's the greatest lesson that I'm learning in this season. Even as I'm being prompted and jolted to learn to be still, it's to learn to give up the need for control, and not to want to control and always want to navigate scenarios in my life, or kind of dictate how things go. It's just to allow life to flow. Where I need to make tough choices, to make them, but just to generally give up the need for control and to let life flow. Thank you so much for listening to this particular episode. If you know anyone or someone, or even if it is you who needs to replay this a number of times to be able to grasp the concept of people who love too much, see what that's about, see if there are certain traits that you see in yourself that resonates with that and how you want to fix it, please feel free to share this particular episode with them. I'm sending you so much love and light and all the warm hugs. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. What's some of the things that we discussed on today's episode that you really resonated with? Perhaps you even have a similar story or something that really tickled you. I would love to get your feedback. You can find me on Instagram at the Walking with Wanzuu podcast. You can also find me on Gmail. You can write me an email, tewanzuu@gmail.com. Better yet, you can leave a note if you're listening on Spotify or any other streaming platform, and let me know whatever spoke to you during this particular episode. Life is too hard to go through it alone. Let's just do life together. Amma, until next time, bye bye.